I've always loved road trips. Something about the open road. The solitude, the freedom. My girlfriend Amanda? Not so much. She's a city girl at heart. But she agreed to tag along on this one because she knew how badly I needed a break. We were driving across Nevada, taking Highway 50, better known as the loneliest road in America. It lived up to the name. We'd left Ely around 6 p.m., aiming to make it to Fallon by midnight. A risky stretch in the dark, but I was craving that eerie, middle-of-nowhere vibe. Amanda was curled up in the passenger seat, scrolling through her phone, her long black hair falling in front of her eyes. The only light came from the dashboard and the endless stars above. There wasn't a single car in sight for over an hour. Around 8:45, we passed a green mile marker, 117. I remember that clearly because Amanda finally spoke. This place feels dead, like too quiet. I laughed it off. That's the point, babe. No people, no traffic, just us and the road. Exactly, she said flatly. We were maybe 10 miles past the marker when I saw something up ahead on the right, shoulder of the road. At first, I thought it was an animal, maybe a deer, but as we got closer, I realized it was a person, a woman, standing alone in the darkness. She was waving. I instinctively slowed down, unsure whether to stop. Amanda sat up quickly. Jake, don't. What if she needs help? What if it's a setup? She snapped. It's 9 p.m., middle of nowhere. That's not normal. I inched closer. The woman wore a white dress. Her hair was soaked, stringy, like she'd just climbed out of a lake. But there's no lake for miles in either direction. Then I noticed something that made my stomach turn. She wasn't looking at us. Her head was tilted down, her hair covering her face. But her hand was still waving, slowly, rhythmically. I didn't stop. I eased the truck around her and kept going. Amanda was breathing fast, hugging herself. Thank you, she whispered. We drove in silence for a while, both of us trying to make sense of what we saw. I checked the rearview mirror. She was still standing there, motionless, fading into the darkness behind us. Eventually, Amanda turned to me and asked, "Did you see her face?" I hadn't, and that bothered me more than anything. 10 minutes later, I saw the sign, mile marker 117. Again. What the hell? I muttered. I was sure we hadn't turned around. Amanda sat up straighter. Is that the same sign? Had to be another 117. Maybe the road loops, I said, though I didn't believe it. No, Jake. I've been looking at the map. We should be at least 10 miles past that marker by now. The air in the truck got heavier. I turned off the music. We drove for another few minutes before I saw her again. The same woman, same dress, same dripping hair, still waving. I slammed the brakes. This is some kind of trick, I said out loud, trying to convince myself. Amanda's voice cracked. Jake, what the F***CK is happening? I hit the gas. The tires screeched as we tore past her again. I refused to look in the rearview mirror this time. Something was wrong with this road. With her. After a few minutes, Amanda started crying. This isn't right, she whispered. We're stuck. We're not moving forward. I tried to stay calm. It's just dark, disorienting. We'll find something soon. Then I saw it. Mile marker 117 for the third time. We hadn't looped. We hadn't turned around, but we kept coming back to the same spot. My GPS was frozen. No signal. The screen just showed the spinning. Well, like it was searching for something that didn't exist. I pulled over and killed the engine. Silence rushed in like a wave. Amanda was shaking. Jake, do you hear that? At first, I didn't. Then I did. Dripping. Somewhere outside the truck. Slow, deliberate droplets, like water falling onto metal. I turned on the interior light. Amanda screamed. Her window was smeared with a wet handprint. I jumped out, flashlight in hand, heart racing. The road was empty. I circled the truck, shined the light in all directions. Nothing. No woman. No sound. Just that endless, echoing drip. We got back on the road. I floored it. I drove like a maniac, praying I'd see a gas station, a sign, a single soul, something, anything. Instead, we hit mile marker 117. Again, Amanda started hyperventilating. We're not leaving, Jake. She won't let us leave. I pulled the truck to the side and just sat there. I didn't know what to do. I felt like the world had shrunk into this stretch of highway, like we'd fallen into some cosmic trap. And then, she appeared, not ahead of us this time, in front of the truck, inches from the hood. Her head snapped up. Her face. God, I'll never forget that face. It was bloated, blue, waterlogged. Her eyes were solid white. No pupils. Her jaw was unhinged, hanging at an impossible angle. She didn't move. She just stared through the windshield, dripping wet. I panicked, slammed into reverse, turned the wheel hard. We spun around, and I drove in the opposite direction, back toward Ely. Or what I hoped was Ely. But there was no Ely, only darkness. And eventually, mile marker 117, one more time. Amanda started laughing. Not out of humor, out of hysteria. We're going to die out here. She's going to drown us in the desert. That's when I lost it. I floored it, straight toward her. I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe I thought if I hit her, the illusion would break. Maybe it'd snap us out of whatever hellish loop we were caught in. I hit 90 miles per hour. She didn't move. At the last second, she vanished. Just disappeared. We passed through empty air. No impact. No sound. And then, the lights ahead. A gas station. Bright, beautiful halogen lights cut through the dark. I pulled in, nearly crashing into the pump. Amanda jumped out, collapsed on the pavement, sobbing. The clerk inside looked confused as hell when we stumbled in. I begged him to tell me where we were. He said we were 5 miles outside Ely. I asked him what the last mile marker was before the station. He looked at me strangely. You mean the one that's been missing since the 90s? Yeah, 117. Amanda and I slept in the truck that night, parked under the lights. We didn't talk. We didn't even eat. We left at dawn, refusing to drive that stretch ever again. I looked it up months later. Turns out, a woman drowned in her car near mile marker 117 after her vehicle skidded off the road during a storm. In 1994, locals say her body was never found, washed into a desert sinkhole. Some say she still waves at passing drivers, asking for help. But if you stop, or if you drive that road too long, you never leave. Amanda and I broke up after the trip. We don't talk much anymore. But sometimes, on quiet nights, I'll hear water dripping outside my apartment window. I live on the 3rd floor. I should have listened to the weather report. They said snow would hit by midnight, and I thought I could beat it. Just a straight 5-hour drive from Grand Junction to Denver. I've done it a dozen times before, but never through Coldwater Pass at night. Locals say that stretch isn't safe after dark. There's no phone reception, no lights, and barely any guardrails. But I was in a rush. I had a job interview the next morning, and the other highway was blocked by an overturned semi, so I took the back route, a two-lane, twisty mountain road with no other cars in sight. Big mistake. It started snowing around 9 p.m. Just flurries at first, then thick sheets of white that made the road almost invisible. My old Jeep Wrangler isn't exactly a snowplow, but I figured I'd power through. That's when I saw it. At the edge of my high beams, something crawling across the road. I slowed down, thinking it was an animal. A deer or a coyote maybe. But this thing didn't move like either. It was too long, too human. It moved on all fours, but its limbs were bent the wrong way, like it didn't know how to be on the ground. I slammed the brakes. My headlights landed square on it for half a second. It turned its head toward me. I swear to God, it had a face. Pale, stretched skin. Hollow black eyes. No nose. Just a mouth too wide to belong to anything real. And then it was gone, vanished into the woods on the side of the road. I sat there, gripping the wheel, my breath fogging the windshield. I wanted to turn around, but there was nowhere to go. The Jeep could barely make a U-turn on this narrow road, and besides, I hadn't passed a single car or turnout in over 30 miles. So I kept driving. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe a weird animal. Maybe my mind playing tricks in the snow. But I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever I saw hadn't just crossed the road. It had noticed me, and it wasn't done yet. About 15 minutes later, my windshield fogged up again. I turned on the defrost and realized something strange. There were fingerprints on the glass. From the inside, my stomach dropped. I wiped it with my sleeve, heart hammering, but the prints smeared instead of vanishing. 5 long streaks. Not child-sized, not adult. Something longer, spindlier, like the fingers of someone who hadn't eaten in weeks. I pulled over. I needed to get out, breathe, convince myself it was just condensation, not actual handprints. I stepped into the snow, wind biting through my jacket. Silence. Total silence. No birds. No wind in the trees. Not even the hum of the engine. I'd killed it without realizing. That's when I heard it. A tap. Not outside. From inside the Jeep. I turned slowly. There was something in the back seat. I bolted back in, yanked the door open, heart racing. Nothing. Nothing visible. Just the empty back seat and my duffel bag. I jumped in and slammed the door, locking it automatically. Then I noticed it. My duffel bag was open, half zipped. I didn't leave it that way. As I sat there trying not to panic, the engine suddenly cut off on its own. No warning. Just silence. I turned the key. Nothing. Dead. No lights. No dash glow. No heat. Not even a click. The Jeep was completely lifeless. And it was freezing. I reached for my phone. No service. Of course. That's when I heard the laughter. Not loud. Not human. It was like a breathy imitation of laughter. Something trying to mock laughter. Like a thing that had heard humans do it once and was trying to copy. It came from right outside the driver's side window. I froze. My breath turned to fog as I slowly looked to my left. There was a face staring at me through the glass. Not a face like yours or mine. It was flat, stretched tight over bone. Skin like wax. Eyes that weren't eyes. Just deep, black sockets. The mouth was wide, smiling unnaturally. Frozen, like a puppet. Then it lifted a hand. 5 fingers. Too long. It tapped. Once, twice. Then the glass started to crack. I threw myself across the seat. Scrambled into the passenger's side. and fumbled with the door. I got out, slipped, hit my knees in the snow, and crawled into the woods. I ran. No flashlight, no direction, just trees, snow, and panic. Branches whipped at my face. I lost my footing twice. I heard the laughter again, closer now, almost in my ear. Then I heard the sound that broke me. Another engine. Headlights in the distance. A second vehicle. I ran straight toward it, burst out onto the road, waving my arms like a lunatic. It was a highway patrol SUV. The officer jumped out, hand on his holster. "Sir, are you hurt? What the hell are you doing out here?" I collapsed in front of him. "Something? In my car? Something's out here." He got me into the back of his truck, wrapped me in a blanket, called for backup. When he took me back to where I said the Jeep was, we found it, exactly where I'd left it. Except now, it was fine. Engine started. No cracked windows. No handprints. Nothing. Like it never happened. The officer looked at me like I was either high or crazy. Maybe both. He told me to head into town, get a motel, sleep it off. I didn't argue. I stayed in a little mountain lodge until the storm passed. The next morning, I went back to the Jeep, and that's when I saw it. On the inside of the rear window, written perfectly in the frost. "Run faster next time." I've driven cross-country more times than I can count. I'm a freelance audio engineer, so gigs take me from coast to coast. I usually travel solo. I actually enjoy the silence and scenery. Makes me feel free. But there's one trip I'll never forget. I haven't told anyone about it until now. It happened last year, somewhere along I-80 in Nebraska. That stretch of the interstate is nothing but endless plains, farmlands, and occasional clusters of sad-looking gas stations. I was headed from Cheyenne to Chicago, and I'd been driving for close to 9 hours straight. It was about 11:30 p.m. I'd downed 2 energy drinks and a stale gas station sandwich, but my eyes were still burning. The highway signs started blurring. I knew I had to pull over soon, either sleep or find somewhere to grab a coffee. That's when I saw the exit sign. It was unlit, old-looking, and had no number. Just a rusted green board with faded white letters that read, "Last exit, gas 1 mile." I don't know why I hadn't seen it on the map. I was using Google Maps and had checked the whole route earlier. But at that moment, I didn't care. I just needed a break. So I took the exit. That was mistake number 1. The ramp curved downward into a narrow 2-lane road lined with dead cornfields on either side. No lights, no signs, no sound but my own tires crunching over gravel. After a minute, I saw a glowing sign in the distance. A gas station, an old one, looked like something out of a 1970s horror movie. 2 dusty pumps, a flickering overhead light, a tiny shop with barred windows, and a Coca-Cola vending machine that looked 50 years old, but there were lights on inside. I pulled in. As soon as I parked, everything went dead silent. Not just middle of nowhere quiet, wrong quiet. Like even the insects and wind had stopped moving. I left the engine running, stepped out of the car, and headed toward the shop. The bell above the door didn't ring when I walked in. The store smelled like rotting wood and damp rags. The air was thick and warm, like someone had been breathing in there too long. There were dusty shelves, expired snacks, and a single ancient coffee pot sitting on a warmer. Behind the counter stood a man, or someone who looked like a man. He wore a greasy flannel shirt, a ball cap pulled low over his eyes. His smile was too wide, way too wide. His teeth looked wrong, not sharp, not human, more like doll teeth. Perfect, symmetrical, plastic. "Coffee?" he asked. I nodded slowly. He poured a cup without looking, and I noticed something strange. His hands never left the counter. Yet the coffee pot poured itself. I stared for a second, confused. The cup landed in front of me, still steaming. "That'll be $1, he said. I reached into my pocket, pulled out a crumpled bill, and handed it over. His fingers brushed mine, ice cold, like holding frozen meat. I backed away and sipped the coffee. Bitter, metallic. "What town is this?" I asked. The man didn't blink, just a stop. "No town here." I looked around again. "Why is it called the last exit?" He leaned in. "So folks don't ask too many questions." That's when I heard the footsteps, coming from one of the aisles behind me. I turned, expecting to see another customer, but there was no one there. Just shelves of canned beans, old motor oil, and dusty candy bars. Another set of footsteps. Closer, but still, no one visible. I backed up to the door. The bell still didn't ring when I opened it. I got in the car and locked the doors. That was mistake number 2. My GPS was dead. The phone itself worked, but the map was frozen. It still showed me on I-80, even though I'd exited 10 minutes ago. I turned on the car, backed out, and headed back the way I came. Only, I couldn't find the on-ramp. Just a field. No exit. No road. Nothing. I turned around to drive back to the gas station, but it wasn't there anymore. I swear on my life. The station I had just walked out of was now a burned-out husk. Blackened walls, shattered windows. The pumps were melted and twisted. A burned sign leaned sideways in the dirt. I slammed on the brakes, heart pounding. I had just been inside, less than 5 minutes ago. I got out slowly, walked toward what was left of the shop. The air smelled like char and decay. I peeked through the busted door. Nothing, just ashes. But on the floor, untouched by fire, sat a steaming cup of coffee. I ran back to the car and took off down the road. The GPS finally flickered. I glanced at the screen. It showed me back on I-80, but the road outside the window wasn't a highway. It was a tunnel of trees, thick and dark. Not pine trees. These were leafless, twisted things, like antlers clawing at the sky. The kind of trees you don't see in Nebraska. The kind that look like they shouldn't be real. That's when I noticed the signs. Every few hundred feet, nailed to trees, were handmade wooden signs. No turning back. The exit is closed. You're already here. Drink the coffee. That last one made my stomach flip. I reached over, looked at the cup I had foolishly kept in the cup holder. Still steaming, still full. Then I heard something rattling in the back seat. My hands were shaking. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to see what was back there. But I glanced in the rearview mirror anyway. There was something hunched in the back seat. Its head nearly touched the roof. Skin like wet paper. Eyes white and empty. It smiled. Not aggressively. Almost patiently. I swerved and nearly crashed into a tree. The thing vanished. Or maybe it just sank into the shadows. I don't know. I drove until I was crying, screaming into the void, trying to wake up. Then, just like that, I saw it. A bright green sign. I-80 East, Chicago, 185 miles. I shot back onto the highway at 80 miles an hour. Cars passed me again. The night was still and real and painfully normal. I didn't stop until I hit Des Moines. I pulled into a Super 8 and collapsed on the bed. I didn't touch the coffee. I threw it in the motel trash and took a scalding shower. I didn't sleep. The next morning, I looked up that exit. There's no record of it. No last exit. No abandoned gas stations near that stretch of road. Nothing. But I'll tell you this. 2 weeks later, I had the coffee cup tested. A buddy of mine works in a toxicology lab. He called me late at night, asked where I got it, said the inside of the cup tested positive for formalin, dead skin cells, and traces of something they couldn't identify. Something organic, but not human. He asked me again, "Where the hell did you get this coffee?" I lied, told him I didn't remember. Because the truth? I think I was never meant to leave that gas station. I think I did something wrong by not drinking the coffee. And sometimes, when I drive long distances now, I still see that same burned out gas station in the distance. Even when I'm not in Nebraska, even when I'm not near an exit. I don't usually pick up hitchhikers, but that night I made an exception, and it still haunts me. I was on my way back from a camping trip in the Arizona desert. I'd taken a few days off work to clear my head after a rough breakup, and the silence out there helped. But by the third night, the isolation got to me, and I decided to cut the trip short. I left just after sunset and figured I'd take Route 77 back to Tucson. It's not a popular road, barely maintained, mostly used by locals or ranchers, but it was a shortcut and I just wanted to get home. About an hour in, I hit a stretch known as Devil's Bend. It's a long, sweeping curve cut between two rocky hills. Locals say it's cursed, and that people see weird things there. Ghosts, vanishing cars, even skinwalkers if you believe the stories. I didn't. Until that night. I was halfway around the bend when I saw someone standing on the shoulder. Alone. Thumb out. Long, dark hair. Backpack slung over one shoulder. No street lights. No town nearby. Just a guy in a hoodie trying to catch a ride in the middle of nowhere. I slowed down. He looked up. He had the kind of face you don't forget. Pale, sharp features. Eyes that looked too wide open, like he hadn't blinked in a while. I pulled up beside him, rolled the window halfway down. "Where you headed?" I asked. "South," he said. His voice was quiet but clear. "Anywhere." Normally I would have said no, but there was something about him. Calm, maybe. Or maybe I just felt bad. He looked cold, and the desert gets brutal at night. So I unlocked the door. Mistake number one. He climbed in without a word and didn't ask where we were going. Just stared out the window. We drove in silence for about 10 minutes. I tried to make conversation. "Coming from a job or something?" "Something," he said. I chuckled awkwardly. "You got a name?" "Do you?" I gave him a weird look. "Yeah, it's Daniel." He nodded, almost like that was all he wanted to know. "I've been waiting for you." I blinked. "What?" He didn't look at me, didn't explain, just turned his head slightly toward the passenger side mirror. "It's close now." I followed his gaze. The mirror was dark, but for a second, just a second, I thought I saw another reflection. Something hunched, with two long arms, crawling in the dirt beside the car, keeping pace with us. I turned the mirror toward me. Nothing there. I tried to laugh it off. "All right, creepy dude. Just trying to get home, not summon a demon." He smiled. That was worse than everything else so far, because when he smiled, his lips stretched too far. His teeth were too white, too perfect, like they didn't belong in his face, like they'd been added later. "I'm just a passenger," he whispered. "But it's coming." That's when the radio came on by itself. Full volume. Just static. Violent, sharp static that made my ears ring. I reached for the knob, but it wouldn't turn. I slammed the power button. Nothing. And the guy beside me, he just sat there, grinning. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. "Don't stop the car. No matter what you see." "What are you talking about?" I snapped. He finally turned to me, eyes wide and unblinking. "If you stop, it gets in." And then the radio died. Complete silence again. The road stretched ahead, winding through desert hills. I hit the gas harder than I meant to. My hands were sweaty on the wheel. I was done. I wanted this guy out. But before I could say anything, something ran across the road. I swerved, barely missing it. It wasn't an animal. It was a person, naked, hairless, running on all fours like a dog. Its back was arched, limbs spider-like, head twitching unnaturally. And it didn't look at me. It looked at my passenger, who, for the first time, looked scared. "Faster," he said. "You have to drive faster." "What the hell is that thing?" I yelled. He didn't answer. He was gripping the seat, knuckles white. Then I heard it. Scraping. Something was crawling on the roof of my car. I looked up. Huge indentations were forming in the metal, like something heavy was shifting its weight as it moved. I screamed and floored it. The car fishtailed on the gravel shoulder, but caught grip. We were doing 90 down, a road that wasn't meant for anything over 50. The thing was still on top. And then it began knocking. 3 slow knocks from the roof. Measured, like it was playing a game. The passenger looked at me. "It's testing you," he said. "Testing me how?" I was gripping the wheel so tight my arms hurt. "To see if you'll stop." I didn't answer. I just kept driving. We hit another bend. Sharp. The tires screamed. I nearly lost control, but didn't. The knocking stopped. Then the windshield cracked. From the inside, right in front of me, a perfect circle of spider-webbed glass bloomed outward, like someone had punched it from the back seat. I looked in the rearview mirror. There was nothing there, but the crack was still spreading. That's when the passenger finally moved. He reached into his hoodie and pulled out a rusted knife. I panicked. "What the hell are you doing?" He didn't answer. He stabbed his own leg. I screamed, but he didn't even flinch. The second the blade went in, the scraping on the roof stopped. Silence returned. He pulled the knife out and calmly wiped the blood on his jeans. "It wants blood," he said. "Pain slows it down." I had no idea what to say. I just kept driving, hands shaking. Another 10 minutes passed in silence. My phone buzzed. Service returned. GPS kicked in. I saw a Shell gas station coming up on the map. I pulled in without asking. The passenger looked at me. "This is where I get out." I parked, stunned. "You're just leaving?" He opened the door and stepped out, limping slightly from the wound in his leg. He turned to me and smiled, less wide this time, almost human. "You didn't stop," he said. "That's good." And then he leaned in. "But next time, don't pick anyone up." He shut the door and walked into the dark. I sat there for a long time before getting gas. Then I drove home, straight through the night. I checked the news the next day. Nothing about creatures or attacks. But I found something weird. A post on a Reddit thread about Devil's Bend. It was titled, "Don't pick up hitchhikers on Route 77 after sunset." The top comment, "If you already did, just don't stop the car. And if it gets in, bleed before it does."